take this time to say welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you to the second annual Fulton Films Red Carpet Film and TV Series. That's a wow moment, right? Give yourselves a round of applause. And this is the Red Carpet Conversation. And we just want to welcome all of you because this is going to be quite a wow moment as well. Our special guest is Tammy Williams, the owner of Cinema South Studios, an 85-acre facility in neighboring Fayette County, and also the owner of CS 145 LED virtual production studio. So another wow moment here. Give her a round of applause this afternoon. Before we get on with our chit chat, I just want to tell you a little bit about Tammy Williams. She is a first here. I'm sitting next to a first. The first Black woman to own her own studio and post-production facility in the state of Georgia. You hear me? The first. She's very, very humble. I had a chance to talk with her earlier. She's had a remarkable career that spanned over 30 years. She's from Tennessee. She attended and graduated from Middle Tennessee State University. After college, she knew what she wanted to do. She started in TV news as a writer, producer, worked for several stations, and then her dream took root. She knew what she really, really wanted to do and what she was born to do and what her passion was. She began to write, she began to direct and produce several award shows, worked for several production houses. The list goes on and on. Her writing and producing credits grew and grew and grew until this very day. And then she had that aha moment. I want to own my own thing. I want to do my own thing. And she now directs Cinema South Studios business strategy and leads the company's acclaimed production assistant education program. She leads the training of the next generation because she wants to give back, reach back, and keep this thing moving forward. She is the boss. Give the boss a round of applause this afternoon. Tammy, it's such a pleasure because you really are humble. We've had a chance to talk about your career a little bit before coming out here. And it truly is a wow moment to see a Black woman sitting here who is the owner of a studio and production house. But you never saw it that way, right? It was a passion for you.
Yes, it was a passion. Let's just say it was something, I think, in my desire to create content and to learning about the gap in the Georgia industry as far as productions not being able to get into our state, having to be turned away. So we wanted to help fill that gap and provide a space, for other productions to come in. But it was just something that, as a content creator, it was just something. It's like, my husband said, "Hey, you want a studio?" So that's why it's important to have a mate that you can support his dreams and he supports your dreams. And so it's like, yeah, that's the next step for us. So let's do it.
Even though you have the big studios here, Tyler Perry, Pinewood, and the list does go on and on, you found a niche here in Georgia. Why specifically Georgia, though?
Well, I live here in Georgia. I've been in Georgia for years and years and years. And I couldn't think of no better place than to be here in Georgia. Georgia was always on my mind. And we have so many things here. I mean, Georgia, as far as like locations, I think we have everything but a desert. But thanks to virtual reality, virtual backgrounds, we can have a desert even in Georgia. So it's a great place to be. I couldn't think of a better place.
And your studios are very high tech. We'll get to that in a moment. But talk about the timeline. Like I said, you did everything. You started in TV news, production, writing. But when did you have that aha moment that I need to own a studio so that I can, produce positive images of Black people? You said that was a mission, and as well as other things.
You used the word aha moment. I don't know if I've had that moment yet. Mm-hmm. It was just something like, this is the next thing to do. like walking to your car, or something you want to do next. This is just the next thing to do, and it just feels right. That as a content creator, I wanted a space to be able to create content. I wanted a space to be able to invite productions to come in and shoot their content. We wanted to make sure, like as far as contributing to the Georgia film industry, because I've been a part of this film industry for years, writing and producing, and some of those things you had mentioned earlier. So it was just something natural. So I haven't had that aha moment. It was just some things like, okay, this is the next step. Let's just step into it.
Just
like
kind
that.
of living your dream, but not really taking the time to enjoy the moment, because you know that there's so much work to be done.
Yeah, it's work. We keep our nose down, and we're working. We appreciate it all. We're having a good time doing it, but we're about the work. We're about getting it done. This vision is much larger than just us, because it's about not only what our vision is, or part of our vision is training other people, having other voices heard in this industry. So when that mission, you realize, and maybe that's my aha moment as we're talking, when you realize that it's much bigger than you. It's something you're doing, but there are a whole lot of people that's coming along behind you that need for you to be, in your position. When you ask the question like, you're the first, one thing about being the first, I'll never be the last. So that means somebody else is going to come along and do it. You have to make room for other people. So that's what it's about. And that's why we have an education program, so we can train other people. We've been doing workshops since 2012. So education is nothing new to us. And we've had over 3,000 people that have come through our workshops, and many of them are working on sets. When I go on sets and I see somebody in the production office as an office PA, or on set as a set PA, but now they're moving up to become a production secretary, or they're working on their hours and to become an AD, and and moving up. I mean, that's the thing that's the heart of it, that you're
reaching back,
always reaching back, always giving to the next generation.
With that said, what is your overall vision for Cinema South Studios?
The overall vision is pretty much that, about productions coming in, creating content, being able to empower others.
How does your content differ from the competitors, or how do you want it to stand out and be different from your competitors?
The studio itself, interesting enough, when we use the word competition, that means we're really fighting for ground. We're fighting for something, we're competing for something. Because of where Georgia is as far as productions trying to get in, I can say right now at this stage, there's no competition, because so many productions are trying to get in, so we're just creating another space for them to come in.
Content is always an issue, right? When it comes to the different production houses, what they focus on, what their vision is, and what they produce, and in terms of images. How important is that for you, and how do you go about making that mission?
Content. You always hear the words content is king, and it is a key. It's very powerful, because it shapes the way people view, how we view one another, how we live our lifestyles, that shapes kind of like a whole world. Having the right representations out there is important, and we've all heard that before, our voices being heard, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera, being able to make those decisions. That's very, very important.
Talk about your studio's birth. You were sharing an interesting story of how you got so frustrated, you opened up your garage and put up a green screen and started production there. Share that story with the audience, and tell us where you are now.
When we first started this journey, it's been over 12 years. My husband and I have been on this journey. Earlier on, when I wanted to start creating my own content, the resources weren't there. I didn't have the money to go into a studio. I didn't have the money to even pay a camera guy. That was just the reality of it, or just to have a whole crew there. And so what came to me is like, what's in your hand? What do you have available right now that you can use? What's in your hands? And I looked around our home. It's like, hey, we have a garage. Pull the cars out, painted the floor, called a couple of my production friends, put up a green screen, and we produced a kids show. We did 11 episodes that were on, was on television. That was, some years ago. But we used our, what was in our hand. I always say that if you want to do something, first of all, don't wait. Don't just kind of like wait and wait and wait for the right time, because the right time may never come. You got to go ahead and just step into it and just kind of make it happen, and look at what resources around you, what's in your hand, what can you use at that point. And so that's what we did, and that's where we started, was our garage, and some production friends and favors.
Tell us about your virtual production studio.
So our virtual studio, we also our virtual studio, we have like a card processor and a volume wall, which means you guys have seen on television when the actors are driving a car in a film. So sometimes they're not always on the street. Sometimes they're in a studio doing that. And so that's what we do. And we're open, like productions come in and lease our space to actually use that. We also have a large volume wall where you can you can shoot a show, whether it's a talk show or film, or create scenes and have a virtual background. So yeah. So we're pretty excited about that.
What will be the premier offering for creators at your studio?
Premier offering. I'm going to say empowerment through education. Because sometimes you don't do better because you don't know better. But once you can get the information, I have a show called Naturally Brown Woman, and the show is about educating not only women of color, but others about women of color. And the goal, and our slogan is, we want to show you how to, so you can do it too. And so that's the same thing with our education program. We want to show you how to, so you can do it too. Whether it's how to picture film, how to work, on set, the do's and the don'ts. Even we get into things like, the red tape. How do you maneuver? Because, we've all worked in a work environment, then there's the politics of the office. Well, how do you maneuver that? Most of us learn the hard way, But so we like to be very real with our students and very practical. And so that's what we have to offer creatives, is an opportunity to empower so they can go out and do what they need to do.
You have a room full of creatives here. What would be your advice to those who want to be like you, who want to start a studio, who want to be a boss in this industry? What is your if you can give us a few words of wisdom, where would you begin?
I would say, just start. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Just start somewhere. If you're working on a job right now, but you really want to be a writer, start writing. If you want to, one day you're going to have your own studio, start, finding out, educating yourself, what equipment is out there. I was on a couple of sets last week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, more people of color are working on set. However, being in a position where you can make the decisions, where you can greenlight projects, where you control the budget, not that you're on set, because it may be, there's a requirement that they have African Americans on set, which is cool and positive, and I'm all for that. But then let's go to that next step. Let's be able to sign the checks. And I said it earlier, and I said it again. When you choose your mate, or God choose them for you, make sure that person supports your dreams and you support their dreams. That's so important, because in what we're doing, because of the amount of work that's required, you got to have each other's back. You got to have that support. So I would say that that would be number two. Number one is my faith in God. I'm so glad I made that decision, because that keeps me in line spiritually. I'm so glad that I've had some good advice over the years, some good mentors over the years. Some people didn't even know that they were mentoring me, but they were. Mentor comes in all different.
How important is it for others to help carry the way? to help carry that torch. We talked about that a little earlier. I'm not going to name drop because I asked you about one person in particular, if that person had reached back and tried to help you. But how important is it for you to continue carrying this torch?
Um, it's important, you know. It's always important to reach back, to give, and we give in so many different ways, and everybody has their own way of giving back. And my way is through education. My way is trying to keep the doors of opportunity open as much as possible, you know, to do with what I can. You know, we all have an audience that I believe that we can reach, you know, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 1,000 people. You know, the important thing is to just do what you can with what you have, but not hold so tight that nobody else can get in, but always keep an open hand, because that's the right hand of fellowship. So, so that's, yeah.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Just follow your dreams, you know, follow your dreams and take the steps, make it happen. Don't make excuses and don't wait for permission. This is not a game of mother may I. You know, we used to play that as a kid. Somebody would be the leader and, you know, they say, hey, can you take 2 baby steps? And you would have to say, mother may I? You know, this is not a mother may I kind of thing. This is your life and you don't have to wait for permission or ask permission to do something.
You're phenomenal. Yes. A phenomenal woman. Yes. Phenomenally. This has been a red carpet conversation with Tammy Williams. Give her a round of applause again. We love what you're doing. Keep on trucking, as they used to say. Thank you.